What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs, and I've got some more big takeaways after watching Kansas City Chiefs preseason week 2. We're going to break all of that down right after this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back in to another video on my channel. We just watched the Kansas City Chiefs in week 2 of the NFL preseason last night. And although the starters didn't play in this one, at least not most of them, a lot of the big players, Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Trent McDuffie, those guys didn't play. But we did see some of the Chiefs' first-team offensive line again. We saw some guys that typically would start during the regular season out there. But for the most part, a lot of reserves out there, a lot of second and third string. And we got to see what the Kansas City Chiefs' depth looks like on both sides of the ball quite a bit. And I have some big takeaways. So I actually wrote down 7. About half of them are positive, about half of them are negative. Just like we did last week, I've got some different thoughts, but I try to keep it balanced. But the first big one that I have after watching last night's game is Kingsley Suamataia. Now, why do I mention him? Well, okay, last week I thought he looked okay. There were some people that had gripes with his performance. He did have one rep in which he got beat by a linebacker, but I didn't think there was anything overwhelmingly negative from him in that game. This week was a little bit of a different story. While Kingsley continues to look great, phenomenal actually, I'd say, in run blocking, pass blocking seems to be an issue for him. He's not been able to keep his balance. Multiple plays last night, he got absolutely put on ice skates, and I'm beginning to wonder what the Chiefs have seen in practice that would lead them to believe that he should be cemented as the starter, because from what I can see, he needs a lot more reps. And I mean, he played like one series last night. He played one series last week. And when these guys play one series on the first team offensive line, that kind of tells us that this is who their starter is, and there's not much debate there. And Kingsley's out there, and I think Kingsley's still the favorite for the starting job, but his performance isn't telling me that he shouldn't, be playing more. I think he needs these reps in preseason, and I hope next week they give him a lot more, because if this is the type of pass blocking we're going to get from Kingsley in the regular season, I'm officially concerned. Now, on a positive note, Tyquan Thornton once again had another good game. I was considering throwing Robert Tonyan in here too, because he continues to look good, but I think he's making this team. I guess there's still a little bit of a debate with Tyquan Thornton. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making it up. But you know what? I'll put them both in the same takeaway. Those guys look good. They continue to look good last night. I think both of them are making this team. A few weeks ago, you could call them fringe roster guys. I think they're absolutely making this team. Now, as far as a negative at the pass catcher position, Sky Moore is just done in Kansas City. I mean, we all thought it already. He already was getting passed up by a bunch of other guys, but I know a lot of people thought, they're going to find a way to keep him on this team again. He's still under contract. Guys, it's almost sad at this point how bad he looks. He had a wide open drop on a check down last night, followed it up with a muffed kickoff, and then had another wide open drop. And it's like, we're in year 4. And I know he had a quote after the game about, mentally having to approach the game differently, but it's like, come on, man, it's year 4. I saw some people last night on my timeline saying they felt sorry for him. And it's like, at this point, he's taken opportunity from other guys. He's already overstayed his welcome as it is. And maybe you could blame the Chiefs coaching staff more for that in the front office, but Sky Moore absolutely should not make this team. I know he had the big 88-yard punt return last night, but it's just not enough to offset everything else. I mean, the guy hasn't recorded a catch since like December of 2023. It's insane. I mean, I don't know of worse players to play the receiver position in the NFL, honestly, to be, drafted that high a few years ago and look like this. It's like, excuse me, you struggle to believe this is the same guy that used to tear up secondaries in the MAC conference and looked like he had a professional release package. He had like an Antonio Brown level release package, off the line of scrimmage. And it's like, what happened to that guy? Where did he go? He's done in Kansas City. Moving on. Another positive one. I wasn't really thrilled to see Jack Cochran and some of the backup linebackers that they put out there to start the game. And the fact that they were out there at the beginning, and Cam Jones as well, you could throw him in there. The fact that we saw them tells me they're higher on the depth chart than Jeffrey Bassa right now, which is just such a typical Steve Spagnuolo way of doing things. I mean, Jeffrey Bassa, I think, should already be ahead of those guys on the depth chart, but we know how much Spags loves his mediocre veterans, his guys that know where to be. But Jeffrey Bassa looked like he was shot out of a cannon last night. He had a huge run stop behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's just one of those guys you watch and immediately he pops off the screen. You're like, this guy should be playing. I already have a feeling that this is going to be a guy that we're going to see, Jack Cochran or whoever out there, this upcoming season. And we're going to say enough of this Spags. Where is Jeffrey Bassa? Get him out there. And it's just going to take longer than it should for him to see the field. But no, definitely like to see him doing well. That's for sure. That's looking like a really good draft pick so far by Brett Veach. For my fifth takeaway, another negative, and I just kind of made this, a broad takeaway, but the defensive depth, honestly, we got to see the Chiefs' depth on defense, and all I'm going to say is I really hope that the starters are able to stay healthy this year, because the Chiefs' defense last night, both, on the ground and through the air, looked horrendous against the Seahawks. Now, granted, this was the Chiefs' backups versus the Seahawks' number one offense to start the game, and that's understandable. That the Seahawks, ones on offense looked good against, Najee Johnson and Jack Cochran and, a bunch of guys that aren't going to make the team. But later in the game, the Seahawks were putting in their backups and they were still abusing the Chiefs' depth on defense. Now, I thought Noel Williams in particular looked good. The rookie cornerback, I think he's going to be a good one. But I mean, I remember Jake Bobo, wide receiver for the Seahawks. He bulldozed Najee Johnson into the end zone. And then Najee Johnson got hurt. I think he got hurt on that play, actually. And then they put in Joshua Williams, and he got burned by Jake Bobo for a touchdown. So, I'm just going to say, I hope the starters stay healthy this year, because the Chiefs' depth got tested a little bit last night, a lot in the secondary, also on the defensive line, linebackers too, everywhere. And it just didn't look very good. And I really thought, this offseason that Brett Veach in the front office did a good job patching holes. I really believed, coming into this offseason, or I guess coming into training camp, I should say, that this was the deepest team we've had in a long time. And I still think it has the potential to be the deepest team that we've had in a long time. But I'm going to need I'm going to need to see some development, because what I saw last night had me rethinking how good our depth actually is, especially on the defensive side of the ball. My number 6 takeaway, Brashard Smith, the running back, the rookie. It's shocking how you can look so good in limited opportunity and also, running behind like the third string offensive line and not earn more opportunities than he's gotten so far in the preseason. Another guy that I think is unfortunately going to have to go through the weird, Andy Reid rookie, boot camp before really earning like real snaps. It's like the same thing we saw with Pacheco. It's like he was so clearly better than CEH when he was a rookie, but it just took them forever to realize it and eventually just start giving him the rock. And it feels like Brashard Smith is going to be in that kind of like rookie offensive player doghouse, even though he had a really good run last night where it should have went for a loss of yards, and he put on a spin move and turned it into a big gain. And it's like, I don't know if we have another running back on the roster right now that is physically capable of making that sort of play. The Chiefs need juice in the backfield on offense in the worst way possible. And Brashard Smith seems like that injection of youth and athleticism that they need in the backfield. But the Chiefs just haven't seemed to recognize it yet, because Brashard Smith is the last running back to see the field right now out of the rotation. I mean, Carson Steele was ahead of him, and I'm just not really impressed with Carson Steele anymore at this point. Elijah Mitchell, didn't really see anything from him, but as soon as Brashard Smith came in the game, the running game popped, and he averaged 7.6 yards per offensive touch last night. I mean, what more do you need to see to say, hey, this guy needs to get more snaps? And sometimes it feels like it takes this coaching staff so long to understand what they have. I hope we see Brashard Smith sooner than later. And then my last takeaway, and I really could have included this on, the defense takeaway, but should we be worried about Jaden Hicks, the safety, the one that we all thought was going to replace Justin Reed, because he was out there late in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter last night, and he also didn't look very good. He looked a step slower than everyone. Although, I shouldn't have just put Jaden Hicks, I guess. I shouldn't have just singled him out because Spags seems to be handling the safety rotation in the preseason very oddly. But I'm sitting here watching and I'm like, why is Jaden Hicks still out there? Like, I thought this guy was going to be a staple in the secondary this season, and he's out there with a bunch of guys that aren't going to make the team. Should we be worried? I don't know. I'll leave that question up to you guys in the comments, but those are my takeaways from preseason week 2, the big ones. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure you guys have some. Definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on what you noticed in Chiefs preseason week 2. But that's all I got for this video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com. Follow me on Twitter at showmefb. That's all I got for this one. I'll see you all in the next one. And as always, go Chiefs.